Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Growing up, I always believed my parents, Linda, 56 female, and James, 58 male, had the ideal marriage. They seemed like the kind of couple who complemented each other in every way. My mom was the rock of our household, the one who kept everything running smoothly, while my dad was the charismatic provider who could charm anyone. Their relationship seemed unshakable. But as I got older, I started to notice cracks in their perfect facade. There were moments of tension, occasional coldness, and arguments that seemed to end abruptly whenever I walked into the room. At the time, I chalked it up to the natural ups and downs of any long-term marriage. Little did I know, there was a much bigger story behind their strained dynamic. I met Eric, 30 male, 4 years ago at a mutual friend's birthday party. He was handsome, charming, intelligent, and had a quiet confidence that drew me to him immediately. We spent the entire night talking, and by the end of the evening, I knew I wanted to see him again. A few days later, we were officially a couple. Eric is everything I could have ever hoped for in a partner. Over the years, he became not just my boyfriend, but also my best friend. It didn't take long for me to realize that he was the one. Meeting Eric's family was a bit intimidating at first. His mother, Margaret, 54 female, is such a stunning woman. She carries herself with an elegance that makes her the kind of woman everyone notices when she enters a room. But she was warm and welcoming, and I felt at ease around her almost immediately. His father, Peter, was equally kind, and they both seemed genuinely happy to welcome me into their family. When it was time for Eric to meet my parents, I was a bundle of nerves. But the dinner went smoothly, or so I thought. My parents seemed to like Eric, and Eric hit it off with them as well. However, when we arranged for our families to meet over dinner a few weeks later, the atmosphere took a strange turn. The moment Margaret walked into the room, my mother's demeanor changed. She went pale, barely spoke throughout the meal, and avoided eye contact with Margaret. My father, on the other hand, seemed overly polite, almost awkwardly so. It was clear that something was going on, but I had no idea what. After dinner, my mother pulled me aside and asked if I was serious about Eric. Her tone was sharp, almost desperate. I assured her I was, and asked why she seemed so upset. She shook her head and said, "I hope you know what you're doing." I just brushed the awkward family meeting, thinking that my parents were uncomfortable because Eric's family is very well off, and maybe my mother was jealous and uncomfortable because Eric's mom's beauty and the amount of diamonds she wore. When Eric proposed to me a year later, I was ecstatic. I immediately called my parents to share the news. My dad was thrilled, congratulating us warmly, but my mom's reaction was lukewarm at best. A few days later, she asked me to meet for coffee, saying she needed to talk about something important. That's when she dropped the bombshell. My father had an affair with Margaret 10 years ago. Apparently, my dad met Margaret when they were both volunteering on a community development project. My father, a charismatic businessman, was overseeing fundraising efforts, and Margaret was leading one of the community outreach programs. They worked closely together for months, often spending long hours planning events and attending meetings. My mom told me that she had initially been supportive of his involvement with the project, happy to see him giving back to the community. But she started noticing little things that didn't add up. Late nights at the office when no one else was working, unexplained absences on weekends, and an increase in the emotional distance between them. She later found out that their partnership had turned into an affair. When my mom confronted my dad with a hotel receipt she found in his jacket pocket, he confessed to the affair. The affair, he claimed, had been short-lived, a few months, no more, but it had shaken their marriage to its core. My mom was devastated, feeling betrayed by both my father and the sanctity of their relationship. My dad begged for forgiveness, promising it was a mistake and that he had ended it because he realized how much he loved her and didn't want to lose their family. After much soul-searching and counseling, my mom decided to stay for the sake of their marriage and for me. She made my dad promise to never see or speak to Margaret again, and they moved forward. My mom told me that she still struggles with the betrayal, but she had done her best to let it go. Until now. Then she dropped another bombshell. She asked me to not invite Margaret to the wedding. According to her, She won't be able to celebrate my happiness in the same room with a woman who destroyed hers. She said she still feels hurt and humiliated. I was in shock. I told her that, sorry, but my wedding is not about her feelings. It's about me and my husband, and that Margaret will be invited, as she is my fiancé's mother. And how does she expect his mom not to be invited to his wedding? My mother's reaction was explosive. "I can't believe you would allow her to be there," she said, her voice shaking with anger. "Do you know what that woman did to our family? How can you stand there and invite her to celebrate your marriage when she almost destroyed mine?" I had tried to reason with her. "Mom, that was 10 years ago. You forgave Dad and chose to stay with him. If you could forgive him, why can't you move on from this? Margaret is Eric's mother, and she's going to be part of my life whether you like it or not." But my words only seemed to make things worse. My mom started crying, accusing me of siding with the mistress and betraying her. "I stayed with your father for you," she said, "and now you're spitting in my face by inviting that woman to your wedding." I understand why my mom feels the way she does. Margaret is stunning, confident, and carries an air of effortless charm. I can see how her presence at the wedding might feel like a slap in the face to my mom. But at the same time, Margaret didn't force my dad to cheat. It was a choice he made, and my mom forgave him for it. If she could stay married to the man who betrayed her, why is she holding on to so much resentment toward Margaret? Eric has been incredibly supportive through all of this. He understands the awkwardness of the situation, but believes his mother deserves to be there for such an important moment in his life. He's even offered to sit down with my mom and try to mediate, but I doubt she'd be receptive. Since our argument, my mom has been distant and icy. She's told other family members about the situation, painting herself as the victim and accusing me of prioritizing Margaret over her. My dad has apologized repeatedly for his past actions and has tried to smooth things over, but my mom refuses to budge. She's now threatening not to attend the wedding if Margaret is there. The thought of my mom not being at my wedding breaks my heart, but I can't bring myself to uninvite Margaret. She's Eric's mother, and this is his wedding too. I feel like I'm stuck in an impossible position where no matter what I do, someone is going to be hurt. I never imagined my wedding would be overshadowed by a decade-old affair. I want to honor my mother's feelings, but I also need to prioritize my future with Eric. Margaret is part of that future, whether my mom likes it or not. I wish there were a way to make everyone happy, but it feels like I'm being forced to choose between my mother and my fiancé's family. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to uninvite Margaret from my wedding? OP's mother's pain is understandable, but it's unfair of her to make this demand. She chose to stay with OP's father and work through the betrayal, which means she already decided to forgive him for his role in the affair. Holding Margaret solely accountable while excusing OP's father is misplaced anger. Also, it's so manipulative for her saying that she stayed in the marriage just because of OP. Uninviting OP's future mother-in-law from her own son's wedding would create irreparable harm to OP's relationship with Eric and his family. OP is doing the right thing by standing her ground. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not the a-hole, but wow. Your mom is projecting her unresolved feelings onto your wedding. It sounds like she hasn't fully healed from your dad's affair, and seeing Margaret probably reopened old wounds. That said, it's not fair for her to weaponize her pain against you. You're not choosing Margaret over your mom. You're respecting both sides of your new family. It's time for your mom to focus on the bigger picture, celebrating your happiness instead of dragging the past into your future. No a-holes. I sympathize with your mom because it must be incredibly difficult to see Margaret being celebrated as a mother when she played such a painful role in her life. At the same time, Margaret is Eric's mother, and her absence at the wedding would deeply hurt him. Your mom's feelings are valid, but so are yours. You're not being cruel. You're just trying to balance both families. This is a no-win situation, but you're handling it the best you can. Update. I thought I might give you a quick update on my wedding, guys. After all the drama and tension, my mother did attend the wedding. She arrived dressed impeccably, as she always does, but her expression made it clear she wasn't thrilled to be there. Throughout the ceremony and reception, she kept a stoic, almost disapproving face. I caught her glancing at Margaret a few times, and it was obvious she was uncomfortable. I'll admit, it hurt to see her like that on what was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. But I had to remind myself that I couldn't control her feelings, only how I reacted to them. I focused on Eric, our love, and the incredible joy of the day. Despite my mom's lack of enthusiasm, I tried not to let it dampen the celebration. At the end of the day, I'm grateful she came, even if it wasn't perfect. I can only hope that with time, the tension between her and Margaret will fade, and we can all move forward. For now, I'm focusing on starting this new chapter with Eric, surrounded by love and positivity. I, 40 female, recently inherited a small amount of money from a beloved relative, enough to take an awesome family vacation to Hawaii that we would never otherwise be able to afford. We, husband and I, invited our husband's parents to come with us, our treat, since they honeymooned there almost 50 years ago and haven't been back. They declined because they viewed that gift as too much for them to accept. We were disappointed, but it's their call. After declining our offer, though, husband's parents asked if we could use the money we were going to spend on their Hawaii invite and give it instead to husband's brother, who recently had lots of overwhelming home repairs to pay for. I said no. Now they are mad. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Spending money to include his parents in your family vacation memories is not equivalent to handing over money for someone else to repair their house. You get something out of the former. You get nothing out of the latter. I would suggest that you explain to them that you were willing to pay for them to join you because their presence was worth that money to you. It was an investment in happy memories you could cherish for the rest of your life. You understand that they feel it is too much. You have decided to use that money to make other memories, which is why it isn't available to just give to your brother-in-law. Not the a-hole. You offered to use the money on them and they declined. It's unreasonable of them to try to reallocate any of your finances, even if you offered it as a treat to them first. I, female 30, have been with my partner, Rob, male 35, for 6 years. He and his ex, Joy, female 30, share 3 kids, Ace, female 10, Base, female 9, and Lace, female 7. We don't get along because she thinks she has a say in my relationship and my private life, but I'm always polite to her. Joy doesn't come from a loving family and doesn't see much of them. Rob has a family that aren't very involved, but we are very close to my parents, siblings, nieces, nephews, grandparents, etc. They love the girls very much and buy them birthday, Easter, and Christmas gifts. They have sleepovers, movie nights, go out to lunch, and my parents also take them to the movies. Joy and her boyfriend, male 35, came up our way. They live 3 hours away to see boyfriend's mother, and they left the girls with us. When Joy came to pick up the girls, she said to me that she doesn't like the idea of my family buying her daughters expensive presents because they aren't family. I asked how much she considered a reasonable amount to spend. My parents spend about $30 on each of the kids, step-grandkid or not. Joy said the most my family is permitted to spend is $10. I was shocked. I am a step-grandkid, and at my grandparents' Christmas party, my step-nan's kids and grandkids would be there. When it was time for gifts, step-nan's grandkids were being given gifts from their uncles, aunts, and our grandparents. They got Legos, Barbies, dolls, remote-controlled cars, 3 to 4 gifts each. We would get a towel. We always felt left out and dreaded gift time. I told Joy that since the gifts my family give them stay at our house, it shouldn't matter how much is spent. Then she got angry and said that she is the mother, and they are her children, and she makes the rules. Here's where I might be the a-hole. I got angry and said to her, fine, my family will only buy them cheap things, and when all the kids are sitting around the tree with their gifts, opening up scooters, music players, DS games, your kids can get a towel. And when they ask why everyone else got something nicer, I'll tell them, because your mom didn't want you to have anything nice, because she said you aren't our family. I told Joy that my family have already got the girls their gifts, and they will be getting them no matter what she says. Rob got several texts from Joy saying that I'm rubbing my closeness with my family in her face, that I don't understand how hard it is on her, that boyfriend's family isn't buying the kids anything, so why should mine, that I was cruel and demeaning, and that I need to grow up and talk like an adult. Rob sent her a message saying that her $10 limit is unfair on the kids, and that if she wants me to respect her, then she needs to show respect to me as well. He also said sending whining texts isn't very adult-like either. I do feel a little bad since her family aren't really in her life, and having my family be so close must cause her to feel sad, alone, and maybe a little jealous. But am I the a-hole for snapping at her and not seeing it from her point? Not the a-hole. It sounds like she's worried about losing her kids' affection to you and your family, and the presents are just a representation of that. She needs to grow up and learn to celebrate the fact that there are many people who love the kids and that they will have the big family environment she's clearly jealous of. Not the a-hole. Screw that noise. You and your family can buy nice gifts for anyone you want. It's Christmas, for Christ's sake. Add to that, family is a fluid and subjective concept. If your family sees your stepkids as part of the family, then that is all that matters. Enjoy Christmas and ignore joy. The crazy lady, not the expression. Sure, sending snippy texts is not very mature, but I'll give you a pass on this one. Who tells people they can't get gifts for their kids? Not the a-hole. She didn't get loved as a child by her family, and now she wants her kids to not get loved by family either. The limit is stupid, and family doesn't have to share blood. You just need to care for each other. If your family sees those kids as family as well, then they can treat them to expensive gifts, and she should be happy that they are being treated nicely. Would she rather they get treated like Cinderella and have to clean all day? I can't say much of the jealous part because people come to terms with these things at different points. I just read a post about someone's husband not realizing or not caring that his family are basically neglecting them unless they need something. Long story short, my 24 male sister Tina, 26, married one of my best mates, Ben, 24, a year ago. Ben was my roommate in uni. He'd met Tina through me and they quickly began dating. I've warned Ben in advance that my sister is a materialistic and selfish person, and I was convinced that he'd eventually drop her, but to my surprise, they ended up tying the knot. Tina and I have never been close due to the above-mentioned reasons, so I've put a little distance between myself and Ben, but we're still close friends. Last Saturday, Tina showed up alone to our father's birthday party, and she barely spoke to anyone the whole time, which is rather uncharacteristic, as she usually can't go a minute without speaking. After the extended family left, I overheard Tina complaining to our mom that Ben didn't show up because they had an argument about how much money she'd spent on Dad's present. I later talked to Ben on the phone, asked him about why he skipped Dad's birthday, and he told me that my sister spent close to 200 pounds on handmade custom mug set for my dad, even though Tina doesn't even work. I told him something along the lines of, "Don't say I didn't warn you." Today, Tina rang me up and accused me of eavesdropping on her and stirring up trouble in her marriage. I told her that I wasn't eavesdropping on her, and it's none of her business what I talk about with my friend. She kept arguing, so I told her that maybe she wouldn't have problems like this if she were to find a job and stop being a money-loving, selfish a-hole, and hung up on her. After work, I found out that Tina and Ben blocked me on everything. I'm pretty sure she pressured him into it, and my mom showed up at my flat and demanded that I apologize to them. I don't feel like apologizing, as I don't think at all that I was the a-hole here. But what do you think? Yes, the a-hole. You shouldn't have meddled. Ben sold you out. He knew that she was materialistic and didn't work when they were dating and still chose to marry her. You warned him. He didn't listen. That's his problem now. Not the a-hole. You let your friend know way before. You weren't listening in. She was talking loud enough and in an area you could hear. Yeah, if she wants to spend that kind of money and not have her husband mad, she should probably get off her butt and get a job. Honesty sucks, and siblings are brutally honest with one another. Yes, the a-hole. The marriage issue to me is irrelevant. What is relevant is A, eavesdropping, and B, bad-mouthing your sister, and I'm relatively certain that is what happened. A, both your mother and sister seem to have believed their conversation was private, and that you should have not been listening in. On rereading your tale, you avoid saying whether it was a loud, public, or quiet private conversation. So I suspect you know yourself it was a private conversation that you intruded on. B, you asked your friend why he didn't come, which you already knew from the overheard conversation above. It sounds like you were fishing for a chance to say, "I told you so," which is a pretty a-hole-ish thing to do in its own right. Finally, when your sister confronted you about interfering in her relationship with your brother, and his with her, instead of confronting that issue, you threw up an issue that you knew was a source of contention between them. You are the a-hole. In addition, you already know that because of the deceptive way you framed your post. You are the a-hole. Your life might get better after you apologize and get therapy for whatever self-destructive resentments are driving these poor decisions and actions. I can practically guarantee it won't be better otherwise. Some backstory. I, 15 female, have a younger brother, 13 male, who is pretty awful. I wouldn't say he is annoying in the traditional sense, but he constantly throws tantrums and has zero respect for anyone or their belongings. For example, he will demand that I buy him things such as snacks, and when I refuse, he'll take my money if he can get his hands on it, or just eat my snacks. He refuses to open bottles of water and close umbrellas because it hurts his hands. He will force everyone around him, usually me, to do simple tasks like this for him because he is a child, his words. He also does zero housework and doesn't even clean his own room. Probably worst of all is that he is also violent sometimes. If he doesn't get what he wants, he will punch and kick me as well as pull my hair. It doesn't really matter if we are in public or not. He'll do it anyways. As for my mom, I'd say that she treats my brother and I pretty differently based on our age and gender. For example, she believes that boys mature later than girls, and because of that, my brother should be expected to do less than me when I was his age, because he is more immature. She'll also routinely allow him to get away with acting like a massive baby, because she thinks it's a part of growing up for boys. Though, if I did the same thing, she'd probably confiscate my phone and cut my computer wires. Again, she believes this is 100% justified. Anyways, here's where the story starts. My brother wanted to order food from the Shake Shack that is 5 blocks away from where we live. My mom usually orders the food online and then picks it up once it's ready. However, my mom was busy, and so she wanted me to go get it. I told her no because 1. I don't even like Shake Shack. 2. I was in the middle of an online game. And 3. My brother should get it because it's his food. My mom got really angry with me and told me, "You know how he is." I replied by saying that it is not my problem that she can't parent her own son, and that I should not be responsible for picking up food that isn't even mine. My mom told me that eventually my brother would come around and start to pick up his own food, and that he wasn't going to do it now because he is a late bloomer. I then told her that my brother is not a late bloomer. He is 13 years old and is 100% mentally capable of walking 5 blocks to pick up food that he wanted. I also said that it was her fault that my brother acts the way he does, because she is clearly incapable of teaching him to function like a normal human being. My mom started to yell at me and said that she is the boss of the household and that I had to pick up the food because she said I had to, and that since I am the older one, I am expected to do more. I don't really think that my mom's actions are justified. As far as I know, all 13-year-old boys are able to do the things that my brother refuses to do. And I believe that my mom's way of thinking is outdated and that she should be doing a better job of making sure my brother is not becoming a burden on everyone around him. But I might be wrong. My dad also seems to agree with my mom, but that might be because he doesn't want her to start yelling at him too. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Sounds like he's a golden child and mother is enabling him. Everything you said is 100% truth. I, 25 female, and my sister, L, is 19. 8 months ago, she gave birth to my nephew, A, and I adore him. But I know what my sister is like, and I told her that under no circumstances will I be babysitting until he is older, for lots of reasons, and she agreed to my terms. Here's the thing, L is a bad mom. Everyone in my family has said so, and everyone has had words with her about it, but she is one of those "don't tell me how to parent my child" people. She always has other people watching him, uses him as an accessory. Example, Elle went food shopping with my stepmom and made her carry all the bags home because putting any on the pram would ruin the aesthetic. She's overfed A because she thinks fat kids are cute, and he's overweight for his age, doctor's words. She lives with my dad and doesn't have a job. My dad pays for everything. She uses him to get attention, and she's always creating drama around A and his dad. There's always something going on. It's exhausting. Lately, Elle started dating again. She asked me to take A for a night. I said no. I had plans anyway. She told me his feeding and sleeping schedule. I said no. She tried guilt-tripping me, then bargaining, and then eventually called me a bad aunt and that I don't care about A. I said no, I don't care about your date. An argument followed and escalated. I lost it and told her she needs to grow up, get a job, and take care of her child properly. Here's where I think I may be the a-hole. In the heat of the moment while we were shouting, I said, "You shouldn't have had a child if you weren't ready to be a parent, so get your crap together." The argument didn't end there, but I did feel bad about that statement. I got texts from a few family members about what I said, but I think they've been told out of context. I've only replied to 2. Everyone is saying what I said was out of line and not necessary. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I feel like it's worth mentioning. L had A on purpose. He wasn't an accident. Also, I'm in no doubt I'm not the a-hole for refusing to babysit. I'm worried I'm the a-hole for what I said. Not the a-hole. As someone who had a child in my teens and took responsibility for him, moms like that infuriate me. Our children don't ask to be brought into the world, and if we choose to bring them into it, we should make them a priority at least until they are 18. What you said was a little bit out of line, but I think not the a-hole. It does sound like she is a bad mother. You said your family has said similar stuff. So why are they mad at you? They clearly agree with you. Plus, you were very clear on your boundaries of not wanting to babysit your nephew. Maybe it could have been handled differently, but it sounds like she really needed a wake-up call. She has a responsibility for her kid. Like, imagine if, God forbid, something happens to your dad and she can no longer support her. What's going to happen to her and your nephew? Is she going to pawn him off on you or other family members? She needs to understand that she has another life to look after, protect, and nurture. Sometimes a verbal slap in the face from someone you love is something you need. Hopefully, in the long run, good things will come out of your words. Though she might not forgive you easily, so you might want to apologize, but emphasize that you set boundaries and she is being irresponsible with your nephew, not the a-hole.